We're going to interrupt right now. We have some news, and the news let us go to Dana Bash about what is going on right now.
Well, we now have the former president's pick, and it is J.D. Vance, the 39-year-old freshman senator from the state of Ohio.
Let me just read, if
Please
I can
do.
read. So we have this announcement is that Donald Trump Truth Socialed it. After lengthy deliberation and thought, and considering the tremendous talents of many others, I have decided that the person best suited to assume the position of Vice President of the United States is Senator J.D. Vance of the great state of Ohio. J.D. honorably served our country in the Marine Corps, graduated from he says Ohio State University. It should say the Ohio State University, I've been told. In 2 years, summa cum laude, and is a Yale Law School graduate, where he was editor of the Yale Law Journal and president of the Yale Law Veterans Association. JD's book, Hillbilly Elegy, became a major bestseller and movie as a champion of the hardworking men and women of our country. JD has had a very successful business career in technology and finance, and now during the campaign will be strongly focused on the people he fought so brilliantly for, the American workers and farmers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond. That came at 2:04 p.m. Central Time, so 3:04. Let us go to Phil Mattingly, who is, I believe, with the Ohio delegation. And Phil, I hope that adding the in that message didn't alarm anybody, but reliably you're supposed to call it the Ohio State University. That's what you've drilled into my head. So
yeah, no, that's important.
There must be a lot of
Jake,
there must be a lot of excitement
watch
where
right
you
now.
are. Must be a lot
watch
of
right now.
excitement.
Governor
Yeah.
DeWine is actually reading the Truth Social post as the delegation is learning about this right now. I asked if they wanted to discuss it, and they actually wanted to wait and see and make sure, not because they didn't believe it, but because they knew that it could go any different way. So as they're reading these posts right now, I'm actually going to show you the delegates from Ohio as they are learning this basically in real time. Governor, I want to ask you, I know you were very cautious throughout this process. You know it could go any different way. Now we know that the former president has selected J.D. Vance. What do you think?
Well, we're very happy. This is a great day for Ohio. Ohio truly is the heart of it all, as we say. And now we have the vice presidential candidate, and we hope the next vice president of the United States, and J.D. Vance.
At what point did you know? I mean, I saw you reading the social media post. Was that when you knew, or did you have like a little bit of an insight?
You never know for sure until you see it, you know. I've been around this business for a while, and, we thought it was going to be J.D., but we did not know that.
Yeah, Lieutenant Governor Husted, did you have any kind of insight into this process beforehand, or was that the first you learned of it officially too?
Well, I think we've known for a few days that it was likely, but it's never done until it's done. And when Donald Trump posts it and says that's the nominee, then we can all move forward with a great deal of joy here in Ohio.
Governor, before I toss it back to Jake, I think the big question right now is, does this help the former president? Does this change the dynamics? You've been in politics an awfully long time. What does a vice presidential selection mean?
Well, look, we're going to win Ohio. We've won it twice by 8 percentage points. But I think J.D. Vance will be a great nominee for vice president. He brings a lot to the ticket. He brings a great American story, an unbelievable story. He served in the military. He's extremely articulate. He has the ability to take Donald Trump's positions and articulate them in just a very, very good way, very understandable way. So, look, this is a new generation. This is a new generation of leaders in this country, and J.D. Vance is going to be the next vice president of the United States.
All right, Governor Mike DeWine, Lieutenant Governor John Husted, we appreciate it. Jake, back to you.
Thanks so much, Phil Mattingly, and it is exciting news. We have just learned Kristen Holmes, J.D. Vance, he's 39, he's been married for 10 years, he has 3 kids. This will be the first ever CNN commentator ever put on a presidential ticket. J.D. Vance briefly served as a CNN commentator after the publication of his book, Hillbilly Elegy. Kristen Holmes, what more can you tell us about this pick?
Yeah, so we'd had lots of conversations around who Donald Trump was going to pick, talking about those top 3 contenders, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, Senators Marco Rubio, and Senator J.D. Vance. And around Vance, the conversation continued to be, if he chooses J.D. Vance, he is looking to secure his legacy in the MAGA movement. As you noted, he is 39 years old, and it is clear to everyone, including former President Donald Trump, that obviously, on day 1 of a potential Trump administration, J.D. Vance is likely to start running for president in 2028. But that would mean that Donald Trump would secure this message of populism that has really taken over the Republican Party. And J.D. Vance, as you noted, was a CNN commentator, but he was also a never-Trumper back in 2017. He was somebody who had spoken out very critically against the former president. When I asked people around them how it was that Donald Trump overcame that, somebody who cares so deeply about loyalty, they said that JD was able to win him over not just through himself, but also through his son, Don Jr. Don Jr. has been one of the biggest proponents of JD Vance, constantly building him up to both his father and publicly as well. Some of the tea leaves that we had seen is that Donald Trump's team seems to be very receptive to JD Vance as well. I will note that Vance was the only of these three potential candidates who went with Donald Trump on a West Coast swing recently. Burgum did meet them there. But part of the reasoning was because JD Vance had secured relationships with a number of Silicon Valley tech moguls, including David Sachs, who's speaking later tonight. This was a huge coup for Donald Trump. This is a world that he had never really ventured up into. So clearly we had seen this moving and inching in this direction, but it is interesting when you hear about Donald Trump and JD Vance. A lot of this is him really securing his legacy and moving that MAGA movement forward, Jake.
All right, Christian Holmes, thanks so much. Let's go to Kaitlan Collins, who's on the floor. And obviously, the big exciting news here for the Republican delegates is the fact that President Trump has picked Senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance. He's 39 years old, so almost 40 years younger than Donald Trump at the top of the ticket. This is a favorite pick of Donald Trump's son, Donnie Jr., and this is, without question, a generational change for the Republican Party, handing the baton, as it were. Kaitlan?
Yeah, Jake, and I think it raises a lot of questions about what this is going to look like for the MAGA agenda, because when Donald Trump was president, obviously the last time, Mike Pence was not a threat to him necessarily politically. He was someone who bolstered the ticket in 2016 with evangelicals, but one part of the consideration in this sweepstakes has been whether or not Donald Trump would view the person that he picked as his vice president as potentially a threat, someone who wanted to be kind of the heir apparent to MAGA. Obviously, Senator J.D. Vance is someone who, as you noted, is incredibly young, has big political aspirations, and right now they are noting that J.D. Vance has been the pick as vice president. A lot of delegates here, Jake, are not able to watch TV. They're not on their phones. They are learning about this all in real time. But I will tell you, one thing that has been happening behind the scenes, as Kristen Holmes just alluded to, is this push for Vance in recent days, as Donald Trump was kind of waffling on his pick. Everyone had always believed that he favored Vance the most, but in recent days he had been asking people about Burgum, about Rubio. He was even throwing out names, Jake, like the Texas Governor Greg Abbott and even Nikki Haley. That is kind of how Donald Trump's brain works during the selection process. But I will note, Donald Trump Jr. went to his dad in recent days and made a final push for Senator Vance. And I should note, I'm standing right here by 5 empty chairs. One of them has Donald Trump Jr.'s name on it. That is where he is going to be here any moment now. They've cleared a pathway for the family as they are about to come in here, because this is the Florida delegation, which of course is going to officially put their father over the top.
Listen in as the roll call continues. Ohio is going to come soon, and obviously that is the home state of the brand newly named running mate, J.D. Vance. And after that, we will hear Florida, which will put President Trump over the top to be the nominee. Let's listen in.
The 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald John Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures of this convention, Maryland, 37 votes, President Trump. Texas.
Madam Secretary, I'm Abraham George, Chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. Not only Texas is the
Any
economic
comment, Donald Trump
powerhouse
Jr.,
of
on
America,
your dad
where
picking
he
Senator
backed all
Vance for
police
his vice
officers.
presidential pick?
I think it's an incredible pick. I think he's an incredible guy with an amazing story, both in business and in life, and I think it's just going to be an incredible person to help unify this country.
And what did you say to your dad in recent days about why? Because he was considering other names, as you know. What did you say to him in recent days about why it should be Senator Vance?
Listen, I think I've seen him on TV. I've seen him prosecute the case against the Democrats. I think no one's more articulate than that. And I think his story, his background, really helps us in a lot of the places that you're going to need from the Electoral College standpoint, and I think he's just going to be a great choice.
When did you find out that he had made the pick of Senator Vance?
A couple seconds ago.
Thank you.